In this module, we'll be discussing on the concept of universal design for learning and universal design for learning principles, and also we'll be discussing on the implementing UDL principles in the classroom. So, in one word, we can say that universal design for learning, it's a framework that ensures that all learners have equal access to learning opportunities. So, in what? It's a scientifically valid framework that provides multiple means of representation, multiple means of engagement, and multiple means of action and expression to achieve academic and behavioral success for all. Now, research in cognitive science and neurosciences shaped the development of UDL. Understanding how we learn through memory, language processing, perception, thinking, and problem solving, which is central for the effective consideration of learners' variability. Different research identifies that universal design for learning is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all learners based on a cognitive neurosciences. Effective use of the UDL framework activates the three brain network. These are recognition network, strategic network, and effective network. And on these three brain-based network, the three core principles of universal design for learnings evolve. So now we'll be discussing on those three UDL principles. The UDL guidelines and associated checkpoints align to this neurological organization and help educators address the predictable variability in learning that we know will be present in any environment UDL recognized variability in. So, if we look at these three UDL principles which are based on neuropsychology, depends that shows that multiple means of representation, that is the what of learning and increase recognition. Then second is multiple means of action and expression, which is the how of learning and expand strategic decisions and outputs. And third one is multiple means of engagement, that is the why of learning, which enhances involvement and attention. Now, I'll be discussing on the principles of UDL. The first principle that I already mentioned, that is multiple means of representation. So, when we are teaching our students, but do they really learn what we are teaching them? Do they really learn? Here comes this multiple means of representation. So, to offer learners various ways of acquiring information and knowledge, that is the what of learning. That means you are going to present your content in multiple ways. So, what of teaching and learning means it's about providing learners various ways to access and engage with course materials and information. I can give you some example for that, like read aloud. Those who have vision problem can be benefited with this read aloud technique. Then there is highlighting phrases if there is a low vision child, or if the child having intellectual disability, then the main key concept can be highlighted. Textbook in audio or multimedia format for the sensory disabilities. Then links to background knowledge, which is a very important. Then Braille converter may be used, or maybe large print version may be used. So then comes the next. And before coming to our next principle, if we think of our education system, so if you look at this picture, this is what is our education system. Education has traditionally been approached using one-size-fits-all model, wherein students are subject to the same teaching styles and evaluation methods irrespective of their ability and interest. We as a teacher, we don't think from students' perspective, how they learn, what kind of evaluation or what type of evaluation will be much more effective for my students. We hardly think, or we hardly concerned about that. Here comes the second principle of the universal design for learning, which is multiple means of action and expression. So here in the multiple means of action and expression is to provide learners alternatives for demonstrating what they know. It encourages learners to demonstrate their learning through various forms, like maybe MCQ exam, may have multimedia, using concept map, using paper pencil test, project, etc. So we can say that, for example, here in multiple means of action and expression, the written responses we can take from the learners' written responses, then verbal responses, dramatic responses, response with visual art, PowerPoint, choice of assignment format like paper, like presentation, web presentation, poster, etc. can be given to them, or we can ask them to do that. Then variety of question types like multiple choice, as I already mentioned, then matching, short answer type. As per learners' need, we have to provide them opportunity. That will be our main motto. So this is what the multiple means of action and expression, where we as a teacher provide learners alternatives for demonstrating what they already know or what they learn. Now comes another principle, that is multiple means of engagement. To tap into learners' interest, challenge them appropriately and motivate them to learn. That is why of learning. It refers to different opportunities for student involvement. Here, for example, you can say that small group activities, which is very, very beneficial for them to motivate the learners, it's very beneficial. Then organizing information into a concept map, keeping a personal journal, use online learning environment for small group work, discussion, then link to news article, practice exam questions, videos, rubrics given at the beginning of an assignment to prompt self-assessment. These are all examples of multiple means of engagement. That is how we can engage our learner in the learning process, irrespective of their differences or irrespective of their variabilities. So, in a nutshell, we can say that There are three principles of universal design for learning, which is multiple means of representation, where presenting information and course content in multiple formats so that all students can access it. Then secondly, multiple means of action and expression, that is the principle 2, which allowing students alternatives to express or demonstrate their learning. And the third one is multiple means of engagement, or the principle 3, that means stimulating students' interest and motivation for learning in a variety of ways. Now, I am going to provide example on multiple means of representation. So, like, you can provide multiple forms to display information, then varied instructional materials, supports or scaffolding can be given them, examples and non-examples to develop patterns and concept, then visual media, use of cues and prompts to draw attention to critical features, teach background information before lessons, that was already mentioned, help students connect what they are learning to what they already know, then auditory media, multiple views or print formats, make explicit cross-curriculum connection. That is also very, very important and useful. Then the next principle, that is provide multiple means of action and expression. Examples like prompts to stop and think before acting. Then tasks or activities can be differentiated. Different approaches, strategies or skills to give a particular outcome or to have a particular outcome. Then use multiple tools for construction or composition. Use supports and scaffolds to express student understanding. Vary the methods for student response. Assignments, use multiple media or format. Assignments can be given using multiple medias or formats. Then assessment, same way, you can give it in different formats or media you can use. Optimize access to tools and assistive technologies, and build fluency through graduated level of supports for practice and performance. Then the third principle, that is provide multiple means of engagement. These few examples includes individualized feedback to support student learning. Assignments have varied level of challenges. Opportunities to share and demonstrate their learning. Activities allow for active participation, exploration and experimentation. Then students' choice of flexible work group. Tasks are related to student interest. Students have choice in which resources to use. Students self-monitor the completion of their work. They have guidelines to allow varied level of proficiency. Choice of activities can be given to the students to demonstrate their learning. That has been already mentioned in my lecture. Then student choice in tools, student choice in content. So these are all examples of providing multiple means of engagement to engage, to motivate our student throughout the learning process in the classroom. Now, we have discussed these three principles with few examples how we can provide them multiple options so that our learners will be motivated, our learners will learn irrespective of their challenges, irrespective of their needs. So I hope you will find these informations useful. Thank you all.